Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Tevi Hirschhorn. I'm excited to be presenting this product topic with you today. Today's topic is called How to Win Over Angry Stakeholders. Have you ever tried to collaborate with people and they're just being negative? They're not being receptive to your idea? You ever feel like you're explaining yourself and you're being clear, but they're just not listening? It's not getting through to them? We're going to discuss today some of the reasons that somebody may become uncooperative, what the underlying emotions might be that are blocking them from really listening and participating, and then how you can get through that and flip them over into allies. So first things first, again, I said my name is Tevi Hirschhorn. I am a senior product manager at InVision. A little bit about me. I got my kicks in web design more than 20 years ago, and my background is really in design. I went to school for animation, always creative and drawing and doing stuff like that. And I learned a lot about storytelling, empathy, role-playing, which was great for my user experience career, but I didn't pursue animation as my regular career. I transitioned to user experience. I worked in large corporations and agencies, startups, and I was the first designer in residence for an Israel-based venture capital fund. I led remote design teams, but I felt I was more of a design thinker and a design strategist than a design craftsman. I always had lots of creative outlets and things that I was doing. I'm always tinkering. But I felt like I wanted to have more control, more say over the business area, and I love the data and research that's a part of the product process. So I transitioned to product a while back, and I've been working remotely for more than 8 years. So I'm a huge remote work evangelist well before Corona, and I actually also have a podcast called Leading from Afar, where me and my co-host Scott Markowitz discuss remote leadership, how to work in a remote environment. But as I said, I have lots of other creative outlets as well. I've written and illustrated 2 children's books. I'm in the middle of my third, and my kids really enjoy that, and I'm trying to create 1 book every year. It takes a lot of time to illustrate, though. But I think I can still do it. So far, I'm 2 for 2 in the middle of my third. And as I said, I'm currently senior product manager at InVision. So our agenda today, we already discussed a little bit about me. I'll tell you a little bit about InVision, where I work, the types of product managers that exist, why soft skills are so important, our role as a product manager, and why a stakeholder might get upset. How we demonstrate compassion and use persuasion tactics to build trust and turn obstacles into allies. So InVision was probably the first startup out there that started creating design tools for designers. Of course, Adobe existed for a long time. That was more about other creative aspects, photo retouching and painting. InVision was probably the first company out there that started to create tools specifically for the interaction design process. We have prototyping tools, we have UI design tools, we have a whiteboarding tool called Freehand, which is fantastic for remote collaboration, not just designers. We have Design System Manager, which helps in organizing the design assets, especially for remote teams. And we have specs, which are helpful for design handoffs to engineering. We have a lot of other tools and some fantastic, amazing things in the works, which I can't discuss, so you'll just have to stay tuned, follow our progress. InVision also is known for lots of amazing content out there. We have podcasts and ebooks and plenty of articles. And we also have a fantastic global distributed community for design leaders. So let's get down to it. The types of PMs. There are lots of different kinds of PMs. There is no one way to become a PM, and there's no one set of skills that a PM needs to have. There are many different tools out there, and you can have them in varying combinations and degrees of strengths, and you can kind of create the product career that you want, that you might be better suited for. I'll explore a few of the helpful ways of thinking about what a product manager does and how to help direct your career in product management. So one way to think about it is this diagram where there's this overlapping set of technology, design, and business skills, and that overlapping crossover is what product managers need to know. We have to have some level of technology and design and business skills under our belt. And if you're more focused on design, if you have a strong design background like myself, you might be more focused on a product that is more user-friendly or user-oriented, user interface-oriented. If you're stronger in technology, maybe you have an engineering background. like a lot of product managers out there, you might be better suited towards a developer tool or API product or products that are meant for developers. Or business, if you're a strong business analyst or you understand data, you might be more focused on the underlying mission and purpose of the product and lean on your designers and developers to fill you in the technology and design. Another way of thinking about the product manager role and the skills we have to have is to kind of look at this multivariate chart. Everyone's got some level of skills in these 6 areas. I've seen a way of looking at it as 5 areas or 4 or 10. 6 seemed right to me. I almost went with 5 because design and technology can sort of be lumped together if you look at it this way. But I separated them out because I think design is a very strong discipline that's very separate from technology. So anyway, I split it out in this diagram. But if you're stronger in data or you're a domain expert, you might choose a different kind of product career. For example, if you're a domain expert in, let's say, billing platforms, billing systems, you might be focusing your product career on that area. If you're an aeronautics engineer, you might understand those tools and be better suited to that. There are people that specialize in growth, which really focus on getting users to perform specific actions, maybe in e-commerce startups, like where I was before InVision. Or if you're a strong business analyst, again, everyone needs to have some level of these skills, and the way you apply or however strong you are in these skills might help you understand where you might fit as a product manager. Another way of thinking about product management is this set of archetypes. There are different product management archetypes out there. Again, this number is arbitrary. I picked 5 that seemed right. There are articles out there that might identify 4 or 10 or 1,000. This seemed like the right group to me. So there's the data scientist, the person who understands how to tell the story behind the data, how to run their own queries and build dashboards that help them decide. And they might operate well based off of data. There's the technician who's a really strong engineer who understands the technology. They might be focused on API products or more engineering-heavy products. And then there's the visionary, the Steve Jobs, Elon Musk type of product manager who's got this grand vision, this big idea of what the product is supposed to be. And they're really good at telling the story and getting everybody on board with that vision and building towards that vision. There's the marketer who knows how to tell the story to the market about the product. They understand the customer base. They understand their users, the go-to-market strategy, minimum viable product, all of that stuff. That might be the marketer persona. And then there's the get stuff done product manager, the one who just knows how to break things down into manageable tasks and chunks and is constantly pushing the team to ship product and to iterate and get stuff done. So there are a lot of different ways of looking at product management. And all of those have, those are skills you can learn. You can learn code, you can learn design, you can learn how to get stuff done in problem-solving frameworks. But one of the more important assets that a product manager needs to have is product intuition. For all the talk of skills and expertise, I think product intuition is one of the most important skills. It's difficult to measure, and it really mostly comes only from experience, time on the job. So I think it's made up of like decision-making, empathy, and data inputs. Decision-making comes from knowing how to do just enough analysis, diversity of thought, and wisdom. Empathy comes from user research, getting close to your customers, the voice of the customer, and user journeys, all the UX discipline. And that just comes from, if you do it enough, you start to really understand how that works. And data inputs can be qualitative and quantitative, knowing how to tell the story around the data, and being data informed. And all of that comes together over time that improves your product intuition. So for all of the books and articles and courses teaching you processes and frameworks and methodologies, I think most product managers, their first day on the job, are going to be very surprised. There's only so much that you can plan for being a product manager. You can try to learn everything out there, how to facilitate brainstorming sessions and design sprints, practice problem solving and product sense. That's not enough. You can learn all the skills, all the tools, all the methodologies, everything. It's not going to be enough. You can read all the books, you can take all the courses, You could even have mentors and friends who are involved, and you can get your prioritization frameworks down. You can understand lean methodologies, all the product methodologies, prioritization methods. It's not going to be enough. Because you're going to think that you're going to go out there and start shipping code and building product and telling people what to do. But that's not what it's about. Product management is not about just telling people what to do and breaking things down into tasks. Product management is more like this, where you have to speak to each teammate, each stakeholder, each participant, understanding the users and empathize with them. Understand where they're coming from, what their goals are as individuals and participants in the process. And you might have to sweet talk. You might have to negotiate and persuade and cajole. It's knowing what makes each person on that team and each stakeholder tick, and knowing what they want to get out of their time in the job, in the company, and the product, and knowing how to use that to help yourself create a more cohesive team where everybody comes together around the mission. Because product management is mostly about dealing with people. Most of the work you do in product management is dealing with people. And that's soft skills. And most of the training that exists around product management is not on the soft skills. But I think that soft skills are the most important aspect of being a successful PM. So here's a book list. I will include this list at the end of the session. But none of these are product books. These are all leadership and management. They're about psychology and getting to understand why people do what they do, how to influence them, and how to really be a good listener as well. Because building and managing software is a journey. Getting designers and developers to play nice is not always easy. You know, the designer might want their parallax animated gradient text, but the engineering team on the internationalization team are having difficulty just getting text to be right to left. And getting everybody to understand what each party wants and negotiate and talk to each other is not going to be easy. You have to keep the squad motivated. You have to prevent or resolve conflict. You have to improve cross-squad and cross-company collaboration. You have to know how to conduct user research and deal with people who might be frustrated with the task that they're performing. You have to do stakeholder management. You have to manage up and manage down. So you're not just scheduling features. You're not just making code and making product. Your job as a product manager is a lot like a politician. A politician says, vote for me because I'm going to build a new school. I'm going to lower taxes. And they come up with a cause that they are the champion of. And they get everybody to rally behind them because those people believe in that cause more than the person themselves. So, and I'm a big fan of The Mandalorian. It's a fantastic series. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. Even if you're not a Star Wars fan, I thought it was just a very well-made series. It was a lot of fun. In The Mandalorian, the warrior character, the Mandalorian, was protecting this baby Yoda character, the child. And he got people to go along with his mission of protecting the child. Even if they were formerly enemies that tried to kill him, he would somehow pull them over to his side because he was unselfish about it, that this character meant more to him than himself. It was about this child who did no wrong, that he was just trying to keep safe and protect, and he would pull people over to his side to get that done. You don't have to agree and commit to what people say as a politician. You just have to kind of push your cause and pull people to your side, and it's not selfish. It's not about you. So I'll give you a story I had. I had someone on my team who had regular requests all the time, and she was always frustrated. She had requests 2, 3, 4 times a day. I kid you not, literally. Things that we could fix, bugs, issues, things that she didn't understand, or UX improvement ideas that she had. And she was sharing these items every day, and she was getting frustrated because I couldn't do all of them. So I said, listen, let's talk. And I got her together with her boss and her whole team. And I said, let's understand all of your issues. Okay, I have your list here, but here's what I'm working on. And here are how these items will improve your job. And I explained how these specific product initiatives actually aligned with her role and would make her job easier and better and allow her to give better support later on. Once she understood the actual things that I was working on and the big mission that I had on product, she actually started to, redline, cross out items on her own list, and she realized what was more important. So her pet projects weren't as important when she understood the bigger picture. I think that's the job of the politician, where you have the cause and the mission, and you have to get people to rally behind that mission. Another way to look at product managers, their job is often like a diplomat. You just have to represent your position and field disagreements and dissenting voices, but you have to make sure that people know what you're about and why. You're kind of like an emissary to a foreign country. Sometimes you just have to make sure that other teams and departments understand what you're working on. Similar to the story that I said before, but in multiple companies, I've seen product excited about what it was they were working on, and other teams frustrated because they felt like their initiatives and their feature ideas were not being worked on. And the funny thing is because product can be so iterative, where we only do a little bit at a time, it sometimes doesn't always feel like we're having big impact. But if you look over a 6-month period, there's often a huge impact. So all it took was regular communication. It could be a simple one-pager which shows updates of what was just launched or what's being worked on this quarter. It could be a Slack message which links out to a document, or it could be a short email. And I found just having these regular communications which go out to the rest of the company is often very helpful and allows them to see what you're working on. It gives them some visibility, and it helps them understand why you're busy and why you can't always work on some of the small bugs that bother people. And the mood quickly changed when they understood that. Sometimes our job as a product manager is a lot like a negotiator. This is a funny GIF. I enjoy the GIF. That's not what it is. We don't punch people in the face. It's actually more about just getting alignment. It's not about forcing your opinion or forcing your idea. It's about working things out. And it's not compromise. I actually hate compromise. Compromise means that nobody's happy. It means that everybody has to give in a little bit. Nobody is getting the perfect execution. I don't like compromise. It's about getting alignment. I once had an issue with one of the remote companies I worked with. There was a team in Israel. Most of the engineering was in Israel. Some engineering was in parts of Europe. And most of the marketing and business was in America. We had people in India and Pakistan and all over Asia and Europe and North America even. So people were really everywhere. But in particular, there was some friction between the Israeli engineering team and the business and marketing and product people in America. I am thankful I have a background in America as well as in Israel, so I was able to understand the two different cultures and what the issues were. The Israelis were upset that the Americans seemed to be breaking their word. They would lie. They didn't mean what they say, and they didn't keep their word. And the Americans were upset that the Israelis seemed to be so stubborn and pushy. So I knew the issues, the difference between the two groups. I knew how to talk to both sides and pull everybody together. I understood that the American politeness, the etiquette, was something that the Israelis would often misread as a commitment, when really they were just trying to let the Americans were trying to let the Israeli side down softly. They didn't know how to say no. And I told the Israeli side that they didn't necessarily mean no, and if you're unsure, you should repeat back to the American side what you thought that they committed to, and then they'll have to confirm or deny that commitment. And I told the American side that the Israelis weren't stubborn. They just needed to understand that they're not going to just take orders and execute. And maybe there's a language issue, but it's important to the Israelis, they were very smart engineers. They just wanted to understand certain decisions. And if it seems like they're being pushy, really they just don't understand yet. And you should just try to give them that explanation. Try to explain it to them better. And I told each side how the other one was thinking. I told the Americans, try to actually say no if you mean no. Or if they keep pushing, if the Israelis keep pushing to understand, then just try to explain. I told the Israeli side that they're not lying. They're having difficulty saying no. They feel that when you keep asking, they didn't realize that you just don't understand. And they are happy to explain and give you more information. So once I brought them together, things were a lot cleaner. They were a lot smoother. They worked together much better. And there's actually a fascinating study, and I'll include the link to this at the end. There's a great study which talked about how different teams, different folks from different backgrounds and cultures and countries collaborate differently. And the social norms, the societal norms for working together, they compared East Asian folks with Israel and the United States and Europe. Really interesting study. And if you're in a remote company, it's important to be aware of the possible cultural differences and the social norms for working together, because otherwise that can create friction. But that's your job as a negotiator. If you're a product manager, you will often have to be a negotiator between very different sides. Also, our role as a product manager is sometimes just being a therapist. We often have to just start by listening and empathizing. Sometimes there's been drama. If you're just arriving at the scene in a company in the middle, you don't know what might have happened before you got there. You're coming in the middle. There might be hurt feelings. Whatever drama and history there was, you have to start by listening. Get your stakeholder talking. In Difficult Conversations, which is a really great book for how to talk to people in difficult situations, they say don't let hidden feelings block other emotions. So if you want a stakeholder to be on board with your plans and feel excited about your mission and help champion it, then you absolutely need to dispel any negativity or bad feelings that might exist toward your goals. So that actually makes things easier, because that means that if you're frustrated as a product manager because what you are saying seems to make sense and your stakeholder seems to be unreasonable, then you need to step back. It might possibly be it has nothing to do with your plans. It has nothing to do with your product or your goals or anything at all. It could be something else entirely. It's that negativity that has to be dispelled before they could even be receptive to your ideas. So I think the best way to deal with that is to step back. Say, hey, let's set up a one-on-one. I want to get some context around this. Try to keep it open and just say you're setting up a context meeting and you ask them just an open question. Can you tell me a bit more about X? Get them talking. Get them to explain. Try to dig and try to hear the full story. Often just being heard is enough for a stakeholder to feel better, and that itself could just unblock those feelings. And I just need to be very clear, you must be genuine. You need to actually put your plans on hold for a second. You need to empathize and actually genuinely listen to what your stakeholder is saying. If they're upset, then they want to feel heard, not used and abused. And I think that's the key for all of this. You need these soft skills because you need to actually work with people. There can be bad feelings in the workplace. The workplace is about relationships. Being professional does not mean you put your humanity aside. Being professional means that you want to work well with everybody on your team. You want to be able to trust one another. You want to feel safe and comfortable to be open, to be honest, to really share ideas and understand everybody's motivations in a product, in any company. If you're not aligned, if everybody has different motivations and a different agenda, then you can't be successful. So soft skills is the way. So what happens when something goes wrong? How do you manage a situation when a stakeholder or a teammate is upset? So you have to understand why a stakeholder might be upset, and you have to figure out how to fix that. So is it possible to fix that? I think yes. As I said, this is all about relationships, and you can fix many relationships, especially in the workplace. So first you need to have compassion. Kim Scott has a book, Radical Candor, fantastic book. She says that compassion is empathy plus action. So you don't just feel the pain, but you actually have to take action to remove that pain. So first things first, a stakeholder or team is upset. So find out what's wrong. That's where you start to empathize. Ask questions. Try to connect. But then you have to take action. It's not just about listening. You have to take action to show them that you're committed. So for example, let's say they're upset because advice they gave wasn't followed. So hear the advice, understand the advice, and then promise to find out what happened. That's an easy way to commit. I said this before, and I might repeat this a few times. Be clear without commitment. So promise to find out what happened. It doesn't mean that you're going to follow the advice, but promise to find out why the advice wasn't followed. So I encountered that scenario repeatedly in probably every company. Whenever you have somebody upset, I would say 9 times out of 10, if somebody was upset at a company, it's because they felt disrespected, because they felt they weren't listened to, or they tried to offer their advice and they tried to participate and they were dismissed. And that disrespect, it creates these negative emotions. That's the drama that people often feel in the workplace. So hunting down what happened is also generally not that difficult. So you find out who the decision maker was and you ask them. I've had this exact issue happen. many times. And I found out that one time this stakeholder was upset because their advice wasn't followed. And I found out that they told the advice to a decision maker who was no longer at the company. The decision maker left. The new decision maker came in, didn't have that original context, and just went forward with the plan that they had. And they didn't know that there was this alternative opinion that was not implemented. So I found this new decision maker, and I told them this original advice. And they said, that makes a lot of sense. We agree. That's something we should probably do. So then I went back to the original stakeholder and explained what happened. And I said this new decision maker actually appreciated this advice. Everything changed. They were much more open. They were much more receptive to speaking with me. So then the next step is, so you've shown compassion. You took action. Then you have to do some quick wins. I think that one of the best ways to build trust in your team is to try to come up with very small tasks that show the other people that you care about their feelings, that you're committed to them being successful in their job. Because that's really all this is. Everybody at work just wants to be successful in their job. And there's generally like a long list of items, bugs, and things that never got resolved. They were deprioritized, they were low impact, they were not on the roadmap, doesn't align. There's 1,000 reasons why things don't get done. So try to find little things, one or two, and just show that you're committed to making their jobs a little bit easier. And that will hopefully pull them over to your side as well. So in the previous example where I mentioned advice was not followed, I found out it was a small task to do. It only took a couple days from one engineer. I said, you know what, I think I can get this in to the next sprint. And it seems like an easy task. So that was the quick win that I wanted to do. There's one more thing though. I had to prove the impact. So if I'm going to pull people over to my side on product, I have to make sure that they understand the product process. One of the biggest issues I've seen with people who don't have that product or software design background is they don't know the process, so they don't understand how a product works. So I said, listen, I found out that this advice was not followed. I found out who was in charge of that. And I found out it's actually not a very difficult task to perform. That's the quick win. And I also found out some data. If we do this, we will lift these other numbers. We will improve ARR. We will reduce customer service calls. Whatever the impact is, try to demonstrate the impact that will have. And tell them that it's important that you prove the impact, because on product, you have to show impact. That your job on product is not just to complete things that bother people, but your job on product is to impact your own OKRs, your own goals, and your own initiatives. So before completing it, I had to prove the impact, and I showed that to them, which then brings me to that next step, is show my work. So it's also, again, you have to show your work. As I mentioned before with the Israeli team, they wanted to understand you can't just steamroll people and push people and say, do this, do that. You need to let them in on the process. Let them know how things work. Otherwise, little things blow up into big things. So show your work. Explain your own OKRs or your own mission, however you operate on product on your side, and show these quick wins, how they align with your OKR. And you should do this for all of it, not even just the quick wins. So we've gotten people over to our side, and they appreciate that we made effort to reduce their pain, and we found out what went wrong, and we are listening to them. But now, in a general sense, where you're working with other teams, on product, you should demonstrate the impact of what you're doing, and you should show why you've arrived at that decision, because people don't always understand that. And when they understand how you work and why, then you'll be more predictable, you'll be more trustworthy, and then they'll understand that things need to align on product. So I had this exact thing happen with someone. She was very business savvy, but she came from a non-technical background. Once I explained why I couldn't just perform all of her, to-do items and her feature requests, and I had to show how it aligned with my roadmap and the overall product roadmap and the numbers that we were shooting for, she was much more receptive, and she appreciated that. And then I showed her the results of the things that we were doing. So I showed how we reduced this number, we increased money, and she understood the impact, and she actually got excited. So once she understood the impact and she understood how we operated, her list of items reduced, and she trusted us more on product to do things the way we do things. And all this talk of getting close to your stakeholders and your teammates and understanding what motivates them and listening and trying to help them out, you have to be careful that you're being persuasive when you have to, but you're not lying to them. You're not being manipulative. So don't lie about commitments. Don't say that you're going to do something next sprint if you can't do it. It's better to say, it looks like there's an estimate of a week. We are blocked for the next X number of sprints, but I will try to see if it can go in the next quarter. Be very honest about what you can and can't do. Again, be clear without commitment if you can't actually commit. Don't lie. Don't erode. You're going to kill any trust that they have in you if you actually lie. So it's better to over-communicate and provide actual information that's realistic, even if it's not a commitment on when you can do something. And another interesting trick, and this actually works on you yourself as a product manager, as well as on your stakeholders and teammates, ask for help. If somebody felt disrespected because their advice was not listened to, then when you ask them for help, they're going to feel like you trust them and value their opinion. That will bring them closer to you. Also, you will feel closer to them because if they give to you, then you will actually be persuading yourself to want to give back to them. It's a nice trick to help you get closer to them. And it takes humility to ask for help sometimes. So don't abuse it. Don't ask just needlessly. Genuinely ask for help. Say you don't understand something and ask them to give you some advice. And that will bring you both together. When you do all this, when you really show that you're working for your stakeholders and for your teammates, that you value their opinions and you value their wisdom and expertise, and you do these quick wins, you're going to create allies. If you could remove the negative feelings that people might have and fix the relationships or reduce the drama, then you're going to create allies. You'll trust each other, you'll be able to lean on each other, and you can repair the damage and hurt feelings. This is the way. This is how we have to work on product. You have to keep your team moving forward and aligned on your mission while leaping over obstacles, taming the lions, charming the snakes, managing stakeholders, and executing against your roadmap without delay. All of that takes soft skills. And these are the skills you really need if you want to be successful as a product manager. All the other skills that you have to learn with frameworks and problem solving and user research, you need that too. But soft skills is going to help you achieve a lot of success. That's leadership, not management. So lastly, here is the list of books and the link to the article. I encourage you to read all you can about leadership and persuasion, psychology, and working with other people. I think that's what's most important. It's something that is difficult to train for, but there's lots of information on the topic. If you have any questions at all, feel free to connect with me on Twitter or email. I'm at TeviH on Twitter and Tevi@tevster.com via email. Thank you so much.